Have you ever paused to think about why it is that so many of us are choosing to spend our discretionary time and income on food? Or why it is that the millennial generation, who came of age during this digital revolution, have spurred the foodie movement? Why is it that we think it's worthwhile to spend $7 sometimes on a cup of coffee or $25 on a bowl of ramen? My name is Turow-Paul, and I am honored to be with you all today and partake in Ed Talks to share a bit about the why behind today's biggest food and lifestyle trends. I have been studying the why and the emotional drivers behind our food and lifestyle trends for over a decade, and I love to really dig into what the psychological and sociological drivers are that will give us a better understanding of why we spend our money the way we do, why we spend our time the way we do. And today, I'd really like to dig into why it is that restaurant culture in particular is so critically important for our well being as we recover from COVID-19. Not just for those in the restaurant industry, and I'm not just talking economics, I'm talking for eaters all over the world. So first, some brief introductions. This is me, my daughter. I myself am a millennial. I'm a mother. I do think that that informs the way that I see the world. And again, for the last decade, I've been really, really obsessed with this question of why. Why is it that we're spending our discretionary time and money on the things that we are focusing on? I'm thinking of anything from poke bowls to goat yoga. And most of my time has been spent really honing in on food culture. What is it in particular about food culture that is resonating with people during the digital age? And a lot of my work really comes back to assessing what is it that we need to feel well in order to figure out why it is that people are choosing to spend their discretionary time or income on something. We need to also think about what basic human needs are we trying to fulfill. And during that time of analysis, what I have identified is that by looking at a whole lot of different theories of well being, many of the experts, whether it's in psychology or religion or neuroscience, they really align on these three buckets, which is that we all have a desire to feel in control and safe. We all have a desire to be a part of a community, to feel like we belong. And we all have a desire for purpose and meaning in life. And what we've been able to see over the last many years is people trying to fulfill those basic human needs by engaging in certain aspects of food and lifestyle culture. So in my most recent book project, Hungry, what I'm looking at is how our digital age environment is impacting our abilities to meet these needs. What I've been focusing in on, well, how is tech either making it easier or harder for us to feel in control, to feel like we belong, to feel like our lives have purpose? And prior to COVID, we were already seeing extremely elevated rates of stress, anxiety, depression, loneliness, burnout, nature deficit. I can go on and on and on. We really were struggling with so many things, in large part spurred by our lives that were connected to screens. Of course, we've only seen a lot of these ailments exacerbated over the last many years. But what I've been fascinated by was watching how this amazing food culture was born at the same time as the digital age, in large part as a way to cope with our digital age environment. So, just a few examples of how this was showing up and has been showing up and still is. First, we've been trying to create a sense of control and order in our lives by asking for foods with transparent ingredients, things that we understand. So many of those who I have interviewed around the world over the last decade have said, I have no idea how my phone works. I don't know if my city is going to be underwater in 50 years, if I'll ever be able to pay off my student loan debt. But gosh darn it, I want to understand what it is that I'm putting into my mouth each and every day. And interestingly, when we are cognitively overloaded, which so many of us are these days with 24/7 news and notifications and emails, science studies show that if we understand what it is that we're eating, we find it to be more pleasurable. Right? It allows us the cognitive space, the emotional space to really appreciate what it is that we are eating. People have also been using food as a conduit to community. Over this period of time, rates of interest in religion have gone down, political affiliation has gone down, the number of people who even know their neighbors has gone down. So we've needed to find new ways of creating identity and finding those who share in our value systems. And so how have we been doing it over that last decade? We've been doing it oftentimes through diet by saying, hey, I'm Suzanne, I'm a vegan. Hey, I'm Joe, I'm a paleo dieter. right? And realizing that these are mechanisms to express who we are and what our value systems are. Our interest in community has also contributed to an interest in communal dining, in shared plates, obsession sometimes with influencers, right? People finding their tribes. Now, food has also become a conduit to find meaning in our lives. And when I say meaning, sometimes I'm talking about changing the world. Other times I'm talking about just finding a sense of fulfillment from a day to day activity. For so many of us, that has been partaking in the DIY movement, creating a new skill set of some kind. Um, do you remember the boom of adult coloring books? That is also about creating a sense of meaning and purpose in your life. At the end of your little coloring spree, you can look down and say, look at what I did. I accomplished something. It's physical, it's real, which is in direct antithesis to a lot of the time that we're spending, which is on screens, creating things in the digital world that, if your computer crashes, could disappear. This has also contributed to the rising interest in things like fair trade and sustainable products. So again, our human needs showing up in the way that we are spending our time and money. In essence, food has become a coping mechanism for this digital age that we are living in. Now, in the context of COVID-19 and the Black Lives Matter movement, this is still true. In many cases, so many of the events of 2020 have simply accelerated the trends we were already seeing. So we have a new set of issues that's really impacting our emotional well-being. We have immediate health concerns, unemployment, isolation, coming face to face with social injustice. And a lot of us are also spending less and less time outdoors, right? This is driving up rates of depression, of stress, anxiety, these issues that were already really major issues prior to the pandemic, now just exacerbated. And that's showing up again in the way that we are interacting with food culture, right? At the beginning of the pandemic, so many of us were trying to create a sense of agency and control by hoarding foods. Now people are looking for immune boosting foods, comfort foods. A lot of us are wasting less food because we're trying to be smart with our dollars and make less trips to the grocery store. A lot of us have also learned how to grow our own food. Again, trying to create a sense of order in a moment of pure chaos. The other thing that we're using food for is as a conduit to community in this moment of isolation. Some of the biggest trends have been around food, whether that's banana bread or sourdough or watching influencers on TikTok. We have also found ways to support our local businesses. Spending at local restaurants is actually back to where it was prior, if you just look at millennials and Gen Zers. People are really eager to connect with those who are in their community. That also includes our farming community. People really thinking about, sometimes for the first time, who it is that's putting product on shelves, who's breaking down their animals to package them for sale, people who are harvesting their food, who are preparing their food. So food culture really has become this amazing conduit and avenue for creating a sense of community and belonging during this moment of intense isolation. People are also looking to food culture to create a sense of meaning and purpose. Now, when everything shut down, what did so many of us do? We broke out the flour and the yeast and we dug our hands into a bowl. We wanted to create something physical, something tangible, something that was a marker of time passing. That was a lot of the gardens too, right? Plant a seed, watch it grow. Though every day feels kind of repetitive at this point, it's evidence that things are moving along, that you are being productive. We also saw rising interest in sustainable foods. Many people thought that people's concern about the climate crisis was going to go down. In fact, it went up this past year. People are realizing that one person can have a real impact. So now, what is the role of restaurants in all of this? Really, restaurant culture has never been more important than it is today, right? We can talk about the economics, and I'm sure that there are other speakers who are going to go over that. But I truly believe that restaurant culture is vital to our emotional recovery. Restaurant owners, restaurant workers can help us feel more in control, more bonded, and more purposeful in our day to day lives. And that's never been more important than it is right now. So, how can this happen? First, restaurants can become safe spaces. They can allow us to get to know our ingredients, get to know our makers. Perhaps your restaurant is going to offer foods that make people feel like, hey, I'm doing something really good for my health, or I feel really, really comforted. Restaurants are also an amazing way to make people feel as though they're contributing and are a part of a group. Again, investment in local businesses has never been higher. Businesses in the restaurant industry can also provide opportunities to become activists, whether it's around the climate, whether it's around racial justice, or any other number of issues that people really care about. And restaurant culture can also be a way for people to then connect with the terroir of where they are, right? We're going to be stuck in the same place probably for a while, but there are foods that only grow in your region. There's talent that's only where you are. This is an opportunity to celebrate what makes your location special, what makes your people special, and create that sense of pride, of community bonding right through your own establishment. And then finally, purpose, right? All of us want to be engaging our bodies, building new skills, spending time outside, but also putting our dollars to work. Really focusing in on how can we use food culture as a conduit to activism. And this is a perfect space for many in the restaurant industry to play in. Again, I said it before and I'll say it again. Restaurant culture has never been more important than it is today. Thank you to every single person who has been feeding us for all of time, but especially over the last year. People who have been harvesting, driving, working in factories to put our foods into boxes, who are actually putting our foods together in a delicious way and getting it onto our plates. You guys are critical to our survival on a physical level, on an economic level, but you're also critically important to our emotional well-being as well. So thank you all for listening. I'm so happy again to participate in Ed Talks. And if you'd like to learn more, here is my information. You can go to hungrybook.com or eveturow-paul.com. It's been a pleasure.